What's next? Right, big changes for the solo shuffle and more planned in 10.05. Man, this is like the one thing I really need to get into properly personally. But essentially, a lot of this I think we've already talked about though, with yes, rating being calculated per round in games with levers, matchmaking value for each player in a match will be displayed. So that's actually, I suppose, displaying MMR. And they say they hope this allows people to better understand the matches they're placed in, as well as rating changes of individual players based on the results of the match. And here we actually have a little thing here where the matchmaking value, rating changes, etc. is all displayed. Nice. And you know, it's interesting, right? Because sometimes in a game with MMR, you can be placed in an unfair match. Right? Like it could just happen that way. And sometimes a game will want to do that to test you a bit. Like there's times playing StarCraft 2 in the ladder where the matchmaking will say, all right, I'm going to give him a diamond this time. We'll see what happens. And as the player who is not a diamond player, you see that yourself and think, oh my God, I better be, you know, it's kind of interesting for the player experience, but at least does mean that if you lose, you know, you're not going to lose a whole bunch of MMR, of course, but because you understand the match that you were in, you're not going to feel as bad because you at least have an explanation for it. So I think that does actually cap some downsides, like kind of inherent to a system like that. So I think that's kind of wise. And then as we talked about, yeah, the penalties. Leaving the match now will cause you to lose at least 150 rating, and you'll have the no-show buff. For 15 minutes, you will receive no honor or conquest for your completed rounds if you leave, and then they give you a 5-second warning, or, you know, a 5-second countdown.
Good.
So, yeah. And
Very
again,
good.
people who excessively do this can be suspended, and they can be banned. That is good. And then beyond 10.05, they've talked about basically what they could do to incentivize more healers to queue for solo shuffle to reduce the queue time for the damage roll. This includes ways to make solo shuffle gameplay more fun, rewarding experience for players. They don't have anything to share right now, but in addition to levers, it is the foremost concern for the team. And they also want to fix up the UI and just keep on going. But the point is, they haven't just shipped it and left it. They are continuing to develop it. And I'd imagine that, because I don't think Hlinka ever said this as, oh yes, this will happen, but whenever some sort of role queue or solo queue rated battleground happens, I imagine that at least like some of the ways of handling that they developed for this, you know, they could perhaps help over there, you know, now that they are actually making this, you know, type of solo queue, you know, PvP experience a thing.
Yeah, it's just...
I'm pretty happy with that. I'd love to... I have to get into it properly. I am a healer, so shit. I suppose I'm needed.
Gameplay innovation within World of Warcraft to bring new experiences to the affected player base. Sorry, my corporate speak translator's failing today a little bit. I'm trying to get the perfect way to explain how solo shuffle is a watershed moment for content and experiences in World of Warcraft. Dragonflight, please buy now. Please buy our stock. Please, 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 etc. But it's quite literally, it is actually that.
How much does that check?
Not enough. Not enough.
Yeah, no, I agree. So one thing though, it's always good whenever developers can give us the why to something. So, Hlinka did some tweets. This is the start of the year. I also want to say my mention's been blowing up for like a month about how we're not doing anything and we're not listening, we're not talking. There are a lot of people in this team playing solo shuffle and having the same experiences. They want it fixed too. Deciding the right path takes time. Making the changes takes time. The time and difficulty of a change may not be intuitive to someone not in the code. That's true. Like, here's a really good example. You code something to specifications, and let's say you code things very specifically because you are working on a timeline. Oh dear, maybe you have to do quite a lot more work than you would think to change a system, because what's actually changed is your base assumptions that you had when you were architecting it originally. So if that changes, you actually have to do quite a lot of work. Communicating takes time. We have players around the world who speak a lot of different languages, and people were on break, and some people are still on break because it's the holidays. Companies trying to do, you know, right by people. You all deserve a great game, best we can make. We want to do that. I guess I just want you to know that and do what you will with it. So, fair. I think whenever developers do, you know, poke their head above the parapet, it's probably best not to litter them with arrows. Because then they'll just go below the parapet and we won't hear anything.
Yeah, it's that frustrating thing where it's hard to understand. Big companies like, yeah, it changes. How long have we been waiting for features for all of the production and all of the professional tools we use? How many years were we using Notion before it got a meaningful update? Like,
at least the Notion team have hit their stride.
Yeah.
Like, so Notion's a software here that we're using. So like everything here, like we, you know, create, in this case, Dakor does our stream notes for every episode. But like they were clearly getting themselves able to have enterprise product or enterprise customers for a long time, because I think they knew that based on like their valuation, their funding rounds and all of that, like they needed to stop just appealing to small teams of people like us. Now we do pay Notion a few grand a year, for all the different, near 20 odd licenses. And we get a tremendous value from that. Straight up, we get so much value from that. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, I want a typewriter mode. And as somebody who, like, generally sort of knows how things work, I'm like, how the typewriter mode would take no time.
Just make one, yeah.
Typewriter mode's like, by the way, whenever, if you hit the enter key when you're typing, your line stays in the same place and the page moves. It's available in things like IA Writer and Ulysses, and I would highly, highly recommend it. Also, Markdown editors over DocX, Word and stuff. But anyway, it's kind of besides the point.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, like, as the user, you feel your problems so profoundly, and sometimes it's just like, yeah, there's shit you don't understand. Because, like, while I was seething, wanting a whole bunch of Notion features, they were also thinking, fuck, we need enterprise customers. Oh no, if we don't have that, we're not going to grow fast enough, and then, venture capital, And I guess that's what a startup's like, I think.
Yeah, I think the general takeaway as far as Blizzard's concerned is, as Diego puts it, even if it's not as fast as we want, this feedback's faster than it's ever been.
That's true.
So it is clearly they're attempting to do things, which means hopefully it speeds up, but it's still faster than ever before. And you're like, okay, maybe you can make a really good game.
Yeah.
It's just going to take time to build the processes to do that.
But Donut's right. Where's the fucking dance studio, Halinka?
Dance studio's in the game.
Oh, yeah.
In the Darkman Fair.
There you go.
Yeah, it's not a dance
Didn't
studio, but yeah.
That's Brian Halinka, but okay.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I'm the best. I'm the closest you're going to get, I think. Unfortunately.
No, at this, you'll be weightlifting against them in no time at this rate.
Nice.